Well, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, March the 4th. And as you can see, this is Experience Live with Sean today. Michael is not with us. We are here in Birmingham, Alabama, working with some amazing friends of ours here. And if you hear some noise behind me today, some kids screaming or some animals, I'm actually at the Birmingham Zoo doing this show live today, sitting in an office. So, it is so awesome to be here today, and I am so excited for our guest today on the show, who is a dear friend of mine, who has been a partner in so many things along the last 10 years of my life. But just a couple quick announcements for you all. Next week, we're really, really excited. We're going to have Michelle Martinez, Senior Vice President of Customer Experience at Confidential, here on the show with us, so you don't want to miss that. As well, next week's podcast, Trend Driven Disruption with Daniel Burris. If you do not follow Daniel, get out on LinkedIn and follow him. He is awesome. So, I don't want to drag on anymore here because I want to spend as much time with our guest today as possible. So, let me give a brief introduction around Jesse Dunbar. Jesse's background includes more than 10 years of client-facing experience in healthcare, CPG, retail, and biotech. A consumer experience enthusiast, strategy leader, product development pioneer who treats consumer problems as business imperatives. I love that. He assesses a challenge, synthesizes heavy data with acute rigor, and takes bold action to implement an elevated strategic experience. He enjoys providing critical feedback, which he believes is the gift that keeps on giving, just like carbohydrates. We have to ask Jesse about that one. So let's welcome to the show today, Jesse Dunbar. Hey, buddy.
Hey. Good morning. It's funny. I
So,
feel like when you said strategy ninja, I felt like I should do some sort of Karate Kid move,
yeah,
like, ha!
yeah,
But
you should have like jumped in doing a flip or something there,
the way
Jesse.
my bones are set up at this age, like when I get out of the bed, things break. And so I'm way too accident prone
You're
to
way too accident prone.
be
Well, Jesse, it is so awesome to have you here.
happy to be
Just
here.
a little bit, Jesse's amazing bio, but you know, really funny. Jesse and I met. Gosh, it has been over 10 years now, Jesse.
Yes, over 10
Over
years.
10 years ago, and I actually hired Jesse on my team in when we both worked for Humana.
Mhm.
And what a journey it has been, Jesse. So awesome to see what you've done
Yeah.
since that
Thank
day.
It's been an amazing journey. It's funny because as I was thinking about this, I was like, you know what? This kind of reminds me of the one time when we had a work trip in Phoenix, Arizona, and you know that I can be very antisocial after I do the work when I'm traveling. I'm like, I just want to go to my hotel room and not be bothered. And then Sean knows the way to my heart, so he said, "Hey Jesse, you should come down to the pool." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a little tired." And then you were like, "Well, Jesse, I have cocktails and French fries." And then I was like, "Okay, I'm down. I'm on my way." It's like
That's right.
to a flame. It's like a mousetrap or something. Just
It
cut.
was. And we had an amazing time there in that hotel for hours
Yes.
while our team colleague was in the gym working out. Jesse and I were floating in the pool. So, so the carbohydrates that keep on giving, right, Jesse?
Absolutely.
So, hey, Jesse, why do what you do and what keeps you motivated as you do it?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's funny because I feel like I'm asked this question pretty often, and a lot of times, more often than so, it's rooted in people's peculiarity and understanding. Like, what do you actually do, Jesse? For family and friends that are not in that space, they're just very curious about it. What it is I do. If you're not in the consumer experience space, you don't have a clue. And so I tell them in a very simplistic way, I solve complicated problems to make consumers' lives easier, right? I typically ask them, like, what is your favorite business? What is your favorite brand? And typically I hear a broad spectrum of things, such as I like Nike, I love Spotify, Chick-fil-A, and the like. Then I'll ask them, right, like, what is it like interacting with the Chick-fil-A? What is it like interacting with the Nike? And a lot of times they say, I really like interacting with them. I like buying their products. I usually hear something to the effect of, I like the way they make me feel, right? When Chick-fil-A says my pleasure, or when a Muslim female sees herself being shown on a Nike website, right? When you see representation like that, or a curated playlist is based on someone's listening experience on Spotify. And so also they typically like how brands make them feel. And so I tell them that as all a part of that's really all about a part of who I am and a part of my world, holistically looking at like, who are the customers, what are their needs, what do they expect, and we create experiences and strategies for that. And so I really have a passion for this kind of work because it's exciting. It's always changing. So that's
Well, and I love that, Jesse, and that was one of the reasons I hired you on my team, was your drive and your passion, to really think about the human, right?
absolutely.
Uh, and I think that's what keeps you and I motivated at what we do and why we do it. It's funny, Jesse knows my wife, Carla. People ask Carla all the time. People ask Carla all the time, "What does Sean do?" And she's like, "I don't know. Um, I I can't explain it." Yesterday I was sharing with her. I called her during one of the breaks. We had our group that we're working with here out on a community safari, and the community safari was actually in the zoo. So I was FaceTiming her and turned it around, and our dear friend Michael from the show
Mhm.
was riding the train going by. And she's like, "And you guys are working?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, Michael's riding the train talking to the conductor. He's
This is
doing
an
research."
immersion. This is called an immersion.
It's an immersion. See, that's what we call it in consumer experience, right, Jesse?
Yeah.
We're immersions experience. So
Ethnography.
that's right. That's right. That's what the pool is too, right, Jesse? We
What is the experience at this hotel like when I go to
That's right. That's right.
potatoes and potatoes? What is the experience going to
That's right. So, Jesse, we threw a little stoke out at you that said, restless reinvention represents active, continuous testing
be? Oh,
and learning in order to improve the customer experience and solution to the problem. So, how does restless reinvention intersect with customer and employee experience?
hmm. I mean, I think I could go on this soapbox for days, but I feel like where do you start trying to unpack this question? And I think at a very simplistic level, and we all know this, right? If you're not reinventing, you're not evolving. If you're not evolving, you're getting left behind by your competition. And so I think about popular brands we've loved, we've adored because they provide the sense of nostalgia. So think about Kodak, Borders, BlackBerry. I remember, think about my job at Humana when I had a BlackBerry. I was like, I'm so cool. I have a BlackBerry. I mean, this
I remember that.
businessman. Okay, I've got a BlackBerry. Radio Shack, right? I think these brands all had something in common. One thing in common, they didn't assess the needs of the market, and I think particularly with what their customers wanted and how the market dynamics were changing. And so, but if you think about brands that have done the reverse, right? Think about brands that have evolved over time through restless reinvention. Coke, Target, I mean, Disney, you love a Disney, Sean. Nordstrom, Walmart, the Marriott brand, like those brands have done incredible work. And so I think they all have one thing in common, is that they're always innovating. Say, for example, Target offers products that speak to their diverse consumer segments. So you think about Pride Month with all the merchandise, Black History, they have a huge product assortment. They even have mannequins that are full-bodied females and full-bodied males, actually representing what America, the fabric of America, looks like. And so even a Nordstrom, they show essentially, and they have this cool product, which I think you're a big Nordstrom's person, Sean. I'm pretty sure I know this for a fact, actually. But they have like a personal book software. It's a point of sale system that provides real-time shopper information. And so each online customer has a profile with their style preferences and purchase history. So it's like companies like that are constantly reinventing themselves, showing the sense of innovation and agility. I'll speak specifically to Best Buy, which it's my current employer. And at Best Buy, we're constantly reinventing. Before I came to Best Buy, I didn't know much about the infrastructure, the products, the consumers, but we're constantly reinventing. And so, of course, with the pandemic, we developed and implemented like this curbside service to keep customers safe. But recently, me and a team, we conducted extensive qualitative and quantitative research to look at, right, like the customer shopping journey from the point of when a customer is trying to buy a TV, right? Trying to consider research their options. They're looking online to see, right, what's the best TV. They're asking their friends about what TV is the best to buying their own TV. So we looked at this broad shopper journey spectrum. And so we learned a lot in this study. One being that, frankly, customers get confused with TV jargon. Like they're like, what is a 4K versus an 8K? I don't know what the heck that means. What is LED versus OLED? What does smart TV actually mean? And customers want TV concepts explained in like very plain English. Like don't miss me with the TV jargon. And so for us to, and they wanted us to articulate how that impacts them, right? How does a 4K impact my life, my listening, my TV viewing experience? And so we shifted the language on our assortment and packaging in store and online to reflect those customer needs. It was a project called Demystifying Tech. And then one other thing that we did, we learned a lot about through the research that customers really enjoy two different attributes when they're shopping for a TV. One is picture quality, like how good is the TV going to perform when I'm watching a movie or television. And then the second attribute was TV size. And so that meant we needed to shift our omni-channel experience, particularly how we showcase our products online.com and then on the Best Buy app, as well as also in store. So it was also important, thinking about the employee angle to this, it was also important for us to empower our blue shirts, which we call our store employees at the retail location. Those are our blue shirts. It was also important for our blue shirts to engage our TV customers in a way that led with picture quality and screen size in store. And so that's really where that intersection of customer and employee manifested itself. So
Well,
constant.
so Jesse, I want to talk a little bit about that, because what you were talking about, and I love it, demystifying tech.
Make tech easy, right?
Like
Exactly what it means.
we think that, all of us that have our life on this, right? The reason we have our life on it is because it's easy, right? And we've talked about it, Jesse, at Mophie, we talk about make it easy,
Yep.
right? Make it easy for consumers. What's funny is how fast and easy you can do that. And this may be a little bit of a soapbox that I'm on right now, because we started together, Jesse, in healthcare. Why are we still struggling at demystifying healthcare, right? What do consumers want? What do humans want? They
Mhm.
want it easy. They want to know what it means,
Mhm.
but we still can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's just a soapbox.
You know, I
Um,
you think about the people, the processes, legacy systems,
yes.
variables that contribute to why innovation is not at a rapid pace at healthcare companies.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me. So, and I love those examples that you just gave us. So let me ask you this, just a tag on, and you started to answer it. What difference then can continuous testing and learning make in in any organization, any industry, regardless of that?
Yeah, well, I think this is like the philosophical question, right? For me, it's very like I think continual testing and learning really sets companies apart from those that think they know their customers to companies that approach situations with a sense of a bit of authentic curiosity. And so essentially you have company A that say, we know our customers, we know what they want, we understand their attitudes, their beliefs, we know what they expect out of us as a brand, versus company B saying, we know our customer, but it's important for us to essentially keep learning about their needs to get smarter and create even better, more optimal situations. And so I think one example, I think I'm going to go back to Humana days just for kicks and giggles. But an example of continuous learning is when I was it was the innovation lab. And the goal of the innovation lab was to look at like, what are the most hairy, most complex problems impacting our members and see how we could solve them. And so we set out it was a very vague problem statement. Like, how do we engage our senior population in their health? I was like, I don't know, like tell them to eat healthy and like get out and walk. Right. But that wasn't going to do. I couldn't put that on a PowerPoint and show executives that. So for this project, we leveraged the Lean Startup Framework, which, if Sean, you're very familiar with this, but for the folks that are not familiar, it's really a methodology that encourages users, like people that are on the project team, building empathy, walk in the shoes of these people that you're solving for, create products, experiences, services, get feedback from the products that you've, these iterations of products that you've created and experiences, and then you iterate until you get it right. So we use that methodology to wrap our heads around what seniors really want, and walk in their shoes to understand their lives and behavior experiences. Like, we went to grocery stores to build empathy, got kicked out a couple times, which is great. Like, that's a token of success. With libraries, state fair, shopping malls, just to understand what the experience of seniors is like, what's their day in and day out life like. And we ask non-threatening questions, essentially. Tell me about what's a day like for you, or what's your family structure like? We found out that seniors felt sense of loneliness, isolation from their friends because of a life event, loved one dying, health issue, children moving away. And these events directly impacted their ability to essentially engage in their health. They didn't want to go to the doctor's office. They didn't want to be social with their friends. And their health was directly impacted because of that. And so as a team, we created like a lot of, we went back to this innovation lab, we created a lot of solutions to try and solve the problem of a term we called social isolation. And so the first solution was more or less a therapy session with bells and whistles to the seniors, and they were like, what is this? Like, we put it on a large Post-it. We were very scrappy. And as you know, to be scrappy is how you need to be in this innovation space. Make it scrappy, not crappy. And so they were just not in favor of it, very opposed to it. They didn't want a group therapy session, and they wanted more of a broader social component to this idea. And so we quickly shifted, like the team, we went back to the lab, shifted, we iterated more. And then the solution that we came up with, affectionately called, I laugh, it was like My Life Connections. It was My Life Connections. And it was essentially like, we help seniors engage in their life events and prevent social isolation. Feedback was strong that we got from the seniors after the second iteration. They liked the idea of coming together, having photography classes, cooking, exercise groups, volunteer opportunities, that kind of thing that the My Life Connections concept offered. And so we then quickly proposed it to leadership, and it was implemented in what we called like YMCA, senior YMCAs across the US. But I think this is the prime example of how any organization can test and learn, right? Keep shifting based off of the feedback, going back to improve and build and create a better outcome for the customer. Yeah.
I love it. So I think the key takeaway from there is this: make it scrappy, not crappy.
Not crap. I mean, listen, how do you think McDonald's got the McRib, right? Continue to release it sporadically. They test and learn. They understand.
They test and learn.
Of the McRib.
Yes. Well, not everyone does, Jesse, but yes. Well,
for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I love that, and I love the fact that you have learned that in your career. I remember watching you the first time in some of this space, when you would look at me and say, what are you doing? You want me to go do what?
I'm my mother's son, and so my facial expressions is just always right here, always ever.
Yeah. Jesse doesn't hide that well. So let me ask you this one more question. You've been in this long, and Jesse, when we worked together, and you did work with us at Mophie, we have been in front of some what people would consider pretty influential leaders, senior leaders. You helped me, and our team did a project for the CEO of Humana, the CEO of Walmart.
Yeah.
What would be your one piece of advice to our industry that works in experience, to give them to be able to connect to those leaders? Because I think that's one of your brilliant things, Jesse, and I think that's what we did really well on our team, is we could connect with that senior leader to make it real for them. So what would be your one piece of advice?
You got to make the senior leader look good. No. So here's what I would say. I would say first is ask as many pointed, like always come with a plan and a point of view. You must come with a plan and a point of view, because that's what these senior leaders don't have the time or nor the patience to deal with your incompetence. So first, come with a point of view. Secondly, with that point of view, I think it's really important and advantageous for you to ask very pointed questions to get to the root cause of what it is you're trying to solve. Because that way the leader sees, okay, well, this person kind of has a handle on things and really is driving for action and change. And so I think when you show up in a space with senior leadership with that level of competency, that level of aptitude to be able to come in and say, hey, this is what I think about this, about the work, about this project, about the topic, but here's some questions that I'm going to ask. And then I think that it gives the senior leader a level of confidence, and it gives you a level of credibility as well to be able to go out, solve the problem, and come back and get the piece of get that feedback from the leader. But I think coming in with a point of view and then asking very sharp, pointed questions to get
Love
to
it. Love it. That's great. Well, we have a question here, Jesse. So I work for a monopoly. So do you have any suggestion on how we can elevate our customer experience?
Well, first, I would say, like, what's the level of appetite? Because I think anybody can drive innovation, but the thing is, innovation is not going to be successful if folks from the top down aren't in support of it or cultivating this innovation space. And so I would say, first, get a temperature check on if your senior leadership is open to innovation, open to creative thinking and pushing boundaries and not accepting the status quo. And then once you have an assessment and figure out what the senior leadership's appetite is for innovation, then you come in again, I think, with that plan and approach to say, yeah, we're in a monopoly. Here's the current state. Here's what I think we could do differently. And when you present what we can do differently, that's when you bring in that innovation framework and mindset to say, here are like 2 to 3 things we can do differently, even though we're a monopoly.
And my one piece of advice to that question is, I don't really believe in the world we live in today there is a monopoly any longer. And we've talked about this before, Jesse, that there's some 18-year-old in some garage. I joke now because Colby, our 6-year-old son, and Jesse, has autism, but to sit and watch him play Minecraft and fly through screens, and I'm like, he's going to disrupt an industry someday that's not prepared for it, but he is there. And so I firmly believe there is no monopolies anymore. It might appear that way, but there's a lot of industries that have thought that previously. The airlines at one point thought they were in a monopoly, right? Or even healthcare, right?
Yep.
You only have what happened there? Direct primary care came, concierge medicine came out of the
tech companies came into the space of healthcare. We're like, hey, we have all this great, significant, smart data about all these customers. We're going to do this much better than you guys. We're going to make it less complicated, and we're going to get rid of. We don't have these legacy systems and processes and this stale, these stale mindsets. So
and so how do you elevate those experiences? Humanize them. Humanize every experience. I think that's my big thing to them. All right, Jesse, one last question. What experience trends do we need to be paying attention to for 2023 and beyond?
There are so many trends. One of the things, there are so many trends. I'll give 2 trends. One trend being this. I think it's this idea of like digital inconvenience, like avoiding digital inconvenience. Right. One major aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic was I felt like there was a greater shift towards customers are buying online. That's just a reality. And so this also led to consumers expecting a lot more from brands. Online, we are now seeing like a real intolerance for digital inconvenience. And the brands that offered a complicated, slow, crappy, frustrating experience quickly fell out of favor with consumers. And so the zero tolerance I think it's essentially here to stay. And you can't see the big brands like I'll say like a Best Buy or like an Amazon, like fully understand it. So from the outside in, it might look like a Best Buy and Amazon have already reached that ultimate frictionless, invisible experience, but there's continuous questioning or of each interaction with the customer or trying to improve things even further. Because I think that when you look at consumer experience, it's like this unfinished piece of art. I'm going to say that. Yes, it's like an unfinished piece of art. Like you're continuously working on creating something perfect, perfect and convenient. So, like, make things easy, right? Make things easy in the digital world. The other thing I'll say is, um, and I feel like this is when the World Wide Web came out 20 plus years ago, and everybody was like, "What is this? What is this? What is the robot? What is the internet? What is going on?" I feel like folks are seeing they have that same perception when you think about the metaverse. And so when I think about embracing metaverse commerce, like I think this emergence of the metaverse into popular consciousness is it's been one like really big business stories in 2021 as well as 2022, with like really big, significant like Fortune 5, 10, 100 companies in the world announcing innovations in the space. And so while I think virtual reality and tech supporting this trend clearly needs to continue to improve before it becomes commonplace or ubiquitous, companies need to start thinking about like, what is your strategy? How are you going to interact and engage in this space? Because I think it might feel futuristic, but brands, I don't know, they just have to imagine like, what is it like? What is it going to be like for us to engage in this metaverse, if you will?
Yeah, I saw where Disney just did a big push on it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, with the metaverse. So I think it is
Capital that Disney has, of course.
Yeah, of course, right?
Of course.
Well, and that that leads the podcast next week that's getting released with Daniel Burris. He actually talks about trend-driven disruption. So it's really great to talk about trends, but what do you do with them, right? And I think that's what we're talking about. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for being here today with us. Best place for people to reach you, I'm assuming, is on LinkedIn, Jesse Dunbar.
LinkedIn and MySpace. Kidding. Yes.
Yeah, MySpace. That's right, MySpace.
Really so yes, LinkedIn.
Or other sites. So, yes. Oh, well, awesome. Jesse, if you'll hang out while I close up the show, and then we can chat afterwards. So,
thank you,
Jesse. Again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the questions and the comments. And I love seeing today we had people from Algeria listening in. So awesome. Again, as I just talked about, next week, Daniel Burris on the Combustion Chronicles, Trend-Driven Disruption. You don't want to miss that. Download that podcast. You can go to my LinkedIn or to the Combustion Chronicles on any platform. And then again, next week, Michelle Martinez is going to be here, Senior Vice President of Customer Experience for Confidential. Last but not least, listen, follow us at mofi.co or seannason.com. Send us an email at hello@mofi.co. And you can connect with myself or Michael. I know Michael's not here today. I missed having him here on LinkedIn. But most importantly, if you play in this experience ecosystem that we talk about, we want you here on the show, just like we had Jesse. Come join us. Send us that email at hello@mofi.co or to me at Sean@mofi, and we'll get you on the show. So thanks to everybody. Thanks for being here today. I hope you have a great weekend.